Hi, today I want to share about the concept of caring for oneself, otherwise known as self-care, which we know has become pretty prominent in culture and in media, given the increase in burnout rates at work due to the pandemic, the isolation that a lot of folks have experienced due to the pandemic, and the socio-political movements of last summer. And in particular, I want to focus on an aspect of self-care that I think is especially important when we think about taking care of ourselves, and that is boundaries. A way I like to often think about boundaries are the necessary no's, right? And that's a great way to keep in mind what we're going to be talking about today. The actual Webster definition of boundaries is the limit or edge of something, a subject, a principle, or a relationship. So personal boundaries are essentially guidelines. They're rules, they are limits that a person creates to identify reasonable, safe, and permissible ways for others to behave towards them, and then how they will respond when someone breaches those boundaries. So healthy boundaries are necessary components of self-care, and I want to give you an example. Think about in a romantic relationship. One partner may have a boundary around needing their own personal or individual time without their partner. That's a boundary, right? When you think about a work relationship, you might need to communicate to your coworkers that you won't be available to answer emails after 7 p.m. because that is your designated family time. That's a boundary. You think even in a friendship, you might want to share that trust is incredibly important to you. And as a result, anything that you share in that relationship, you want to be kept in confidence. A boundary. Without boundaries, we feel depleted. We feel taken advantage of. We feel taken for granted. We feel intruded upon. So whether it's in work or personal relationships with ourselves, poor boundaries often lead to resentment. They lead to anger. They lead to hurt and to burnout. And boundaries are not meant to be mean. I want to be clear about that. Boundaries are not meant to accompany guilt. Boundaries are not meant to be punitive or reactive. They are meant to be proactive. They are meant to be communicated. They are meant to be clear, and they are meant to care for oneself. So when you're thinking about boundaries and you're going over this in your mind, I want you to think of some questions. Are you more rigid or more flexible with yourself and how you communicate that with others? Is saying no something that is easy for you to do or challenging? And think about why that might be. Are you able to know when your body is telling you that you have reached maximum capacity in your time, in your effort, and in your energy? And then what do you do with that knowledge if you do know? And then are you able to give clarity proactively about what it is that you need in relationships versus reactively? These are some questions that are important to think about when we're considering developing and growing in our boundaries and understanding how boundaries apply to our self-care. Some quick things I want you to think about if you are considering employing boundaries are, number one, is to be very clear about your limitations with yourself. Be very clear about what your edge, what your capacity is with yourself and with others. Number two, communicate that clearly. Develop the language that is effective to clearly communicate what it is that you need. 3, give yourself permission. It is okay. It is perfectly reasonable and in fact necessary to say no. Number 4, make yourself a priority. You deserve it. You deserve to be cared for. You deserve to feel good, and you deserve to be able to make yourself a priority. Number 5, start small. Don't try to go from 0 boundaries to everything in a day, but make them actionable, measurable, and quantifiable things that you can look at to say, I want to grow in this area and this relationship. And then lastly, seek support. This is a challenging thing to do if you've never done it before, and a professional can always be of help. And I hope this helps you understand boundaries a bit better. Thank you.